Now next, Dr. Eoin O'Dell, Associate Professor at the School of Law, Trinity College.
Nachhirirli, Ara, Seanad, Eoin agus a chuirde gael. Táim anmhaocht an chuiste as an cura chun freastal livniu is mór an unordom a bheith an seo chun an ceise antáchtach a phléilíomh. I welcome the committee's consideration of the most appropriate way for the state to treat the national anthem, and I am grateful to the committee for the invitation to attend today. Preventing inappropriate use of the national anthem is important, and encouraging its appropriate use is just as important. However, I would like at the outset to make two basic points. First, given that this consultation has arisen in part out of two bills proposed by your rapporteur, Senator Mark Daly, to use copyright law to prevent inappropriate use of the national anthem, I have to say emphatically that this is not what copyright law is for. Second, if the prevention of inappropriate use of the anthem is to be achieved, it should be done in its own terms and with clear definitions, not only as to what constitutes such inappropriate use, but also as to how it is to be prevented. So, my first point, copyright. I entirely agree with the Minister. There should be no change to the copyright status of the national anthem. The music, the soldier's song, the words of Eoin and the words of the soldier's song are all now out of copyright in the public domain and should remain so. Attempting to bring them back into copyright or to assert a new copyright in them would be inconsistent with the functions of copyright law and incompatible with European law and with the Constitution. It is for these reasons that I disagreed with the details of Senator Daly's bills last year, but I agreed with his larger point, and the point being discussed today, about the need to treat the anthem with respect. So I did some research on the legal treatment of national anthems in similar jurisdictions, and I drafted a bill to address the kinds of concerns raised by Senator Daly. That bill is the basis of the submission I have already made to the committee, and which I will briefly outline now. The bill does not propose to use copyright to regulate the use of the national anthem. It simply does so directly. It sets out the things that ought to be considered directly. Section 3 of the bill will define the national anthem, but it also acknowledges that all of the versions of the anthem so defined are in the public domain and thus not subject to copyright. And that will not change. So my recommendation entirely agrees with the Minister so far. As to the bill that I propose, I must say I'm not entirely wedded to all of the details. Left to my own devices, I would probably have had fewer provisions. But I drafted the bill to show the kinds of things that such legislation does in other countries and might do so here. I submitted it to the committee in the hope that you might find it useful in your deliberations, and I'm delighted to be here to discuss it. It begins with the usual boring short title, commencement definitions and so forth. Sections 3 and 4 define the national anthem and the presidential salute. Reflecting both government decision and common practice, Section 3 defines the national anthem as the chorus of the soldier's song, words by Patrick Carney, music by Patrick Heaney, and of Eoin, words by Liam O'Rinn. And it provides that these versions should be set out in a schedule. I should add that reflecting Senator Daly's success with the recognition of Irish Sign Language for the Deaf Community Bill 2016 and having regard to other submissions that you have already received and to other witnesses you will hear in this session, it would not be difficult to add subsections here to provide for the words of the national anthem in Irish Sign Language as well. Section 5 provides that the national anthem and the presidential salute should be performed and treated with respect and dignity, and it set out various ways in which such respect and dignity might be expressed. The should is crucial. Unlike a mandatory shall, which creates a legal obligation, I agree with the Minister that the matter should simply be expressed as a hope or a desire without creating any affirmative duty. So I suggest that persons present at the performance of the anthem or salute should, if practicable, remove headgear and stand at attention throughout the performance, given that that is the standard appropriate means of respect. Note the should. And I would add that if that isn't possible, people should otherwise treat the performance with respect and observe it with dignity, even if standing to attention isn't possible. Section 6 reinforces that the principles in Section 5 are intended only for general guidance and do not give rise to any legal liability, whether criminal or civil. So again, I agree with the Minister that the matter should be non-binding, it shouldn't be compulsory. However, we have had examples of disruption of the national anthem by public disorder, and where that amounts to an offence provided for in the Criminal Justice Public Order Act 1994, the fact that this disorder disrupted the anthem might be taken into account for the purposes of aggravating a sentence, as an aggravating factor for the purposes of sentencing. The key issue, it seems to me, relates to advertising and commercial activities. And in my bill, Section 8 is the core of the bill. It is an attempt to define the kinds of advertising and other commercial activities for which not just the chorus, but the entire of the Soldier Song and Ar Navíon ought perhaps not to be used. It would not be difficult in this section, again, to add subsections to provide for the words in Irish Sign Language. The key part is a requirement in subsection 6 that anyone who wishes to make a commercial use either of the Soldier Song or of Ar Navíon should seek prior written consent of the Minister for Finance. And we have already heard from the Minister that the Department of Finance is the department which has had carriage of the matter until the anthem fell out of copyright recently. And the subsection goes on to provide that the consent of the Minister in this respect should not be unreasonably withheld. The key point, though, is to attempt to define the commercial activities in question. And my attempt is to regulate or to suggest regulation of commercial sound recordings, commercial broadcasts, commercial public performances, commercial publications, and commercial communications to the public. And I then go on to provide for various non-commercial uses, like the charity example that the Minister gave, where the consent of the Minister would not be necessary. The bill finishes by providing for remedies, in particular where consent should have been sought but was not, or was sought and was refused, then an advertisement using the Soldier Song or Ar Navíon must not be published or broadcast. The publisher or broadcaster must not publish or broadcast it, and the Minister could get an injunction to prevent any such publication or broadcast. And similarly, any other commercial activity for which consent was sought and refused, the Minister could get an injunction against that commercial activity too. If the Minister were to get damages in these actions, those damages, or if there were fees to be levied for the purposes of consent for the performance, those fees could then be distributed under the National Lottery. In conclusion, I should like to say that this is a very important consultation. I am very grateful for the opportunity to participate. I'm more than happy to take questions and to assist the committee with this work now and in the future. Is mian lum an thaas fard an chiste leis an obertauchtach seo, gur raibh maith agaibh as éisteach le mar ráite soscailta gur míl mágaibh.
Thank you very much.